Conversations with NESVANMAR. Thank you for joining us today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, there's going to be a slight delay because we have an international Zoom connection. So apologies for any delays that are happening while we're on the call, but we'll quickly try to get through our questions. So thank you for joining Conversations with NESVANMAR. This is an opportunity for us to talk about business, to talk about how your business in particular has been affected by COVID-19, and in general provide any business tips to business owners throughout the world right now that are experiencing a crisis. So let's start up the conversation. So Lu, you are the founder of Ellen Partners based out of Geneva, Switzerland. And you're also the co-founder of Parfait Watches, a luxury watch brand, also based out of Switzerland. Can you talk to us a little bit about those opportunities that you have?
Yeah, sure. Actually, Julia, I just lost you for a few seconds. So I got the last, the end of the question about our luxury brand. The name is Parfait Geneve. So it's a Swiss-made watches, watch brand, and I would say the specialty is that all the dials are of semi-precious stones. So for those people who are big fan of nature mineral stones, so these are the stones such as lapis lazuli, malachite, onyx, so on and so forth. So yeah, I got a chance to be in Switzerland, which is a big country to a long history of horology. And I've met business partners here with different specialties. Some are watchmakers, some are experts of stones. So, and for myself, I've been many years in digital marketing. So it's kind of a combination of different expertise. So we're happy to have this opportunity to create this this brand. Yeah.
And so from some of the things I read about the watch label Parfait is that, do these watches give you any healing power because you're using these natural stones?
Yes, exactly. Actually, every stone has its unique feature. Of course, from the nature, so there are like millions long time for the stone to become what they are today. So they have a different combinations, different origin of production, and so they carry a different kind of energies, and they also interact with the wearers in a different way. So it's not necessarily one stone for everybody, but of course in general they have certain empowering features. To some will, for example, tiger eye will actually assure to give you more confidence, and onyx actually help the wearers to feel the kind of peace, to feel the best of themselves in any circumstances. So these are in general, but as on the other side, there are stones that are particularly having certain energy and healing powers for some people who were born at a certain time, or who have certain particular situation or their own nature, things like that. Actually, I'm still discovering myself. It's such a wonderful world, and plenty of very interesting things to discover.
Interesting and diverse background, moving from China to New York, having a corporate career for many years, and then moving to Switzerland. I wanted you to share with some of our viewers what that transition has been like, and how did you come to start up your company, Ellen Partners?
Yes, sure. Actually, when I look back, I always feel very fortunate to have had this experience, the cross culture, cross fields. I would say it was not planned, but it turned out to be this way, and it gave me opportunities that I never thought about before. For example, when I was a student, was always wanted to go to the States, and fulfilled my dream. About how many years ago, I couldn't I cannot even count, many years ago. And after my study in New York, I got this great opportunity to work for AIG. That's where we met, a big corporate in America, in the insurance business. My role was mostly in marketing. I rotated in different departments, and really learned a lot, not only knowledge, but also gained skills. And particularly for me, the most valuable is really get to the point to be able to understand the American corporate culture, to be able to work very well in diversified culture environment. And I feel I developed quite many skills, and also broader view about how to work with people, how to look at opportunities from different perspectives. Given that coming from China, we have actually quite many different way of looking at things. So that was very valuable. And then by chance, I came to Europe about 8 years ago, and I realized I used to think New York it was everything. If I am able to work and succeed in New York, it means I can replicate the same everywhere else. But actually, I would say it's right and wrong. It's right in the way that the spirit that I got from New York, this can-do spirit, never give up and always learn, always try to do better. That really helped me. But what I didn't expect was that actually culture-wise and mindset-wise, Europe is very different from America. And there's so many things I, at the very beginning, was even a little bit shocking and hard to understand. But with a lot of, I would say, the open-mindedness and always forever learning, this kind of attitude really helped me. Even subconsciously, I just never gave up. So, and I started to discover a lot of opportunities, I would say, I probably didn't see even in New York. For example, Europe, and especially particularly in Switzerland, it's a small country. So here, very quickly, if you're willing to be open, you go to different networking events, you quickly meet a lot of people coming from different fields, willing to share. You can meet with people from the government, from different associations, from the background of technology, marketing, or big corporates or startups, many different things. So without really realizing it, I accumulated a lot of great connections. And to be concrete, that I started to get to the startup fields. And then I realized, look, people are looking, their startup companies really impressed me. In Switzerland, the government actually supported the startups well with the certain organizations, or also give a lot of funding and all that. But at the same time, I realized that the investment mentality here is much more conservative than in the US and even than in China. So I noticed the imbalance of a different technology ecosystem. So I realized there is opportunity, but more importantly, I'm willing to. I was impressed and very, I would say, touched by the spirit of innovation and efforts of all these young startups. And I'm willing to use what my connections and my knowledge. By the way, my major was actually investment when I was in New York. So with all of that, I feel I can help these people, help the startups to thrive. And at the same time, my networks here with the government and officials makes a lot of information and the connections possible. So I got a lot of support from all directions. So with this, I would say I've not thought about when I was in New York, and I'm very excited to continue this journey and make some contributions if I can.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's wonderful. And I think you also did a great overview on, just explaining what it is to live in multiple countries and experiencing the culture and starting over new each and every time, but building upon what you've learned, what you've taken away from China, from New York, over into Europe now. And I think one of your greatest skills after knowing you for so many years and working with you and just admiring you is your ability to connect really well and build upon our relationships. I know that we build our own relationships, but I think that energy that you bring to the table and your authenticity, really, I feel anywhere that you live in the world, you will succeed because you have that natural, genuine ability to build strong bonds and relationships with people. So kudos to you.
Thank you very much. That's very encouraging, Jodia. Thanks.
Yeah, so let's talk just briefly about your company now. So we've seen that you've transitioned from China to New York, and now you're in Switzerland, specifically Geneva, and you're running your company. Your company has to do with a lot of connections with China, throughout Europe, and really all across the world. With your company and with the crisis that's going on with COVID-19, has there been any impacts? And what is the climate like in Switzerland and Europe right now in terms of business people and just dealing with COVID along with just everyday life?
Yeah, I would say this is really a trying time and difficult for business. And if we talk about startup and the technology field, because the shutdown of the business is already very challenging for all the companies and entrepreneurs, but especially for the startups, because for them they just actually laid a foundation because of their disruptive technology. They just formed a team, and it's about the time to scale up, to grow. And with this, and so it's a very critical moment. So with the stop or pause of all of this, actually that's really, really challenging. So the government, first of all, the government is helping actually all the entrepreneurs, trying to put more funding to pay half-time, what they called part-time unemployment, where the government will assume the cost of the salary, basically, of so the entrepreneurs, the companies will pay a percentage of the salary, where the government will step in and pay the other hours that actually the companies cannot use these employees for. So that's very good, but the challenge is that it has to be proved that your business is directly impacted by the situation, by the coronavirus. And for the startup companies, it's hard to prove this direct connection. So there are a lot of associations, for example, the Chambers of Commerce of Geneva, they stepped in and try to get a lot of votes or petition from startup companies to convince the government that even when you cannot prove the direct connection, the startups still need support and help. And because the startups actually are our future for the growth of the economy, for the growth of employment.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's really good to know. I know in New York and just federally, the government has stepped in, and there are grants and loan programs for small businesses, but I believe there's generally a cap of having at least being in business for 6 months or so. So I know that a lot of business people, or even those who have started to start up their company, they're having a difficult time right now because they're like, well, what about me? You know, what about those solopreneurs who are just getting started and have invested some, but may not have all of the records to show what their growth has been in business. So I hope that just all across the world that we don't forget those people who are literally just starting up their business. There is money that has been lost, and I hope that programs, even if it's Google, it's Facebook, someone will step in and help out those businesses because they are the business of the future, and they bring incredible wealth of knowledge and experiences and could potentially create something amazing in the next coming years. So we don't want to, forget about those people who are just starting up because there are amazing ideas out there. So thanks for bringing that up. We always forget about the smallest, but those small folks have amazing, amazing abilities. So we'll see what happens there. So just in life in general in Geneva right now, it's 10:45 a.m. in New York. It's approximately what time in Geneva right now?
We have 6-hour difference, so it's 4:45 in the
Okay,
afternoon.
so it's in the afternoon. So what is life in Europe, in Geneva, like right now during COVID? Are there any mandates from the government about staying, distancing yourself? What are supermarkets like? Just give us a sense of what's going on in Europe.
Yeah, it's right now in Switzerland, the government has requested it's not the strict confinement like in France, where people cannot go out except for grocery shopping or pharmacy. And what's interesting that as a couple, you cannot go out at the same time. It's only one person at each time. So in Switzerland, it's just suggested that people stay home as much as they can, and most of people are working from home, and the request is that you can still meet people, have a gathering, as long as it's not more than 5 people, and as long as during the gathering you still keep 2 meters of social distance. So actually now, for example, sometimes we go out to have a walk during lunchtime or after work. There are quite some people. Of course, people try to avoid each other, but I mean, keep in mind actually in Switzerland, it doesn't have a very big population, and even on a regular basis, if we go out, we don't see so many people. So maybe that's another reason the government has not really implemented the strict confinement. So yeah, so we are lucky we can still go out and enjoy the weather. Especially now, it's hard not to go out because it's a spring. It's really bright and beautiful outside. And in terms of supermarkets, I would say the first couple of days, when the government started to suggest staying at home, the supermarkets were, for a couple of days, were pretty much empty, especially in the city center of Geneva, because the supermarkets were not prepared to see this new buying pattern, because everyone is buying, instead of for 2 days, they're buying for 2 weeks, or even more, especially for those things that you can keep long, like flowers, even potatoes, onions. Interestingly, were gone quickly, but it was just the first week, I would say, because right after the supermarkets quickly adapt, so they're getting more supplies and put them on shelf multiple times a day. I think what's a very assuring, which we learned later, is that since Switzerland is it's a small country, and throughout the history, it relies on import for most of the natural products from all of Europe, or even all over the world. So, and also for this country, it's a policy, or it's a strategy to always keep enough supplies for the whole nation for at least 4 or 5 months. So I would say, thanks to this kind of mindset or preparedness, we received from the big supermarkets notice that no one needs to worry about the supplies in the next 6 months at least. So and that's also what we see. It's normal, always plenty of supplies.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank goodness for preparedness, and just for having that model of stockpiling things and making sure that, the buyers that are coming into those supermarkets feel a sense of calm, and not to worry that they're going to lose out on things like toilet paper, the issues that we're having right now in the United States. So kudos to Switzerland for maintaining calm during this crisis. So some of the things we've talked about briefly, and I've talked with other entrepreneurs during this conversation with NESVANMAR, is that yes, we are going through a crisis right now. in terms of our business, but there's also some sort of silver lining or opportunity to grow or shift and make things better. Have you been doing anything in your business where you're somewhat pivoting or you're making your business better during this downtime? Can you share any insights on that for our folks and any tips in general?
Yes, what you said, yeah, what you said is absolutely true. It's not only about keeping the spirit to be optimistic. In fact, it's actually time that I start to learn, and I start to really appreciate, because as an entrepreneur, especially young entrepreneurs, we know we are facing always endless, I would say, endless tasks. We have to take care of our accountings, our marketing, and prepare for for strategy. And for example, like we know how important marketing is today. So for my two businesses, I remember when I was so busy, I always have a lot of ideas in my mind in terms of content creation. But the things then I never really found time to dig deeper and develop these ideas. So right now, I realize, for example, for my consulting business, I started to accumulate more information about, for example, China, the how to do business in China, and what are the Chinese investors are looking for. Um, how to when your startup companies do want to go to China and scale up, what do you need to prepare yourself for? Even for example, for even for the small things like where to put your kids to school. So there are lots of information. Before I only, for example, did consulting when I had clients who asked for these questions. But now I realize I can actually anticipate these questions and write them in the blogs to share with potential clients. So it's some sort of added value to everybody who's interested in doing business with China as well. So that's one thing on my consulting business. And for it's the same for the watch. Everything we discussed about the features of the stones and the healing powers, and also to really share with the market and the potential customers of who we are, what's the value, what do we believe, how do we want to add to the lives of our community. So all of this we have already been doing, but now with time we are strengthening the content for our social media. We have Instagram and Facebook, and also I always wanted to strengthen the website. So now we have time. So I'm really I would say I'm very happy about it. And another thing is something not so glamorous is the accounting. And I was always struggling with VAT, with accounting, annual report. And now it's interesting, actually. My husband, he had education of accounting, and now I got the chance and say, hey, you also have time. Help me with accounting. And it's quite challenging, but then we find it also very interesting as a activity together. So now we ended up liking it.
You know, accounting was my least favorite subject during taking business classes. Yesterday I spent my entire day on balance sheets and statements. As entrepreneurs, you take on every role, you wear every hat. And yes, you can go and out outsource those things. But when you're in a state of crisis, sometimes you're not able to do that. So yesterday, I must have spent about 6 hours on creating things for my marketing, along with the balance sheets and income statements. And I was dreading it so much because I absolutely hate doing it. But during this period of COVID, we are afforded some downtime. And, for me personally, if I can, I want to be able to come out with new skills and develop my company as much as possible. So, Lu, thank you so much for joining us today. This conversation has been wonderful. You've provided a worldly perspective on business in general, how we're coping with business during COVID, and just in general, just lifestyle things that are happening all across the globe. So thank you for, giving us that opportunity and sharing your experiences from China to New York, and now into Switzerland and the EU. Thank you so much. It's a wonderful conversation. I would just ask that you tell the folks that are watching, where can they find you on social media or your websites? Can you share that with us so that we know how to get in contact with you?
Yeah, sure. So with our social, with our Instagram and Facebook, we have the tag hashtag Parfait Geneve. So Geneve, it's a French. Actually, both are French. So Parfait is French for perfect in English, and Geneve is French for Geneva. So it's spelled as PARFAIT Geneve. It's a Parfait Geneve. So thank you so much, Jodia. It's always a pleasure chatting with you. So I really appreciate. I had a great time.
Yeah, and so hopefully when COVID-19 is over, we're able to meet each other, maybe in Switzerland this time. The last time I think we met in or Paris. It was New York. It was
Yes, exactly.
So maybe this time, hopefully everything will calm down and we're able to travel once again freely. And who knows, maybe I'll see you in Geneva. I'd love to come back and visit. Geneva is spectacular.
Yeah, you have to come. You have to come visit me.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Lu. Appreciate it.